When you first launch the app, you're going to see all of your projects. So start off by creating a blank project, and then you can give this project a name. What you're going to see are two nodes. We've got our asset node. This is where you can upload a 3D asset. And then you have your PBR node. And this is where our latest AI model called I2M is actually going to add all the PBR properties to your 3D asset. Now, if you haven't got a 3D asset to work with, we've already preloaded some. I quite like this saddle. So this is a little cowboy saddle, and that's automatically dropped it in as a new node. So let's just delete this one. And I can then hook this up to our input for the generate PBR. So we'll see that this one doesn't have any PBR right now, but as soon as we click run PBR and generate the textures, it's going to start looking at that 3D asset and adding the albedo channel, the metallic channel, the roughness channel, and also the IOR channel, which just makes sure everything's going to look really realistic. This usually takes between 1 minute to 2 minutes for some big assets, but I'll come back when that's done. So that asset is now done, and we can already see it looks slightly different. But to view it in 3D, if we just hover over the node, click View PBR Textures, so we can see all of the PBR on this asset. We can see it interacting with the light very nicely. It's picked up the metal really well, and it's still got all of this kind of dirt and grime on the back of this saddle here, which looks really nice. Leather's looking good, wood's looking good, nothing's coming out sort of too shiny, I would say. So it's a pretty good asset. If we want to actually see the PBR properties, we can come to the bottom here and we can view the albedo channel. So this is the albedo without any lighting. We can see the metallic, so it's picked up all the metal components. We can see the roughness as well. It's got a nice roughness in there. It's got some of the scratches as well, and the sort of folds in the leather. And we can also see the IOR on this asset as well, but this is quite homogeneous, so most of it looks quite similar. Now, if we want to take this into a 3D application, all we have to do is actually just go over to the download button, click download, and that will download all of those texture maps for you, and you can put them back onto your 3D object, and that will download it as a zip file, and just unpack it and drop them on. Now, what if you want to upload your own 3D object or find a 3D object on, say, SketchFab? So I'm going to show you how to judge what is a good 3D object. Now, some objects might look good, but if you put PBR on it, it's not going to look great. So we would recommend being a bit critical when picking an object for PBR. So let's find a 3D object on SketchFab. I have pulled together some assets that I think are really good candidates for PBR. So if you want to have a look at those, you can just type in MXR into the search bar, go over to users, and we've created a folder here called image to material test data. So these are all kinds of objects that we've found on SketchFab from a variety of different users, some of which look really good when you add PBR to them. So I found this really cool 3D scan, and the geometry also looks pretty good, and I can see this by going to the model inspector. So this is nice and clean. We've got, really smooth geometry here. So this is an example you probably shouldn't apply PBR to. First glance, this object looks pretty good. There's some really nice textures here. It looks very detailed. However, that doesn't tell us about the 3D geometry. And when you add PBR to a mesh, the PBR really accentuates the geometry. So if the geometry is a little bit kind of gloopy and bent and has holes in it, you're going to see it when the base color doesn't always show that. So one way that you can identify this when you're looking at an asset on SketchFab is coming down to matcap. And as soon as I switch to that, we can now see that this isn't very well defined. There's a lot of kind of gloopy geometry going over the laces, which isn't quite right. And there's the occasional hole as well. So if I was to add PBR to this, it's not going to look good. In fact, it's probably going to look worse. So what I'm going to do is download this as a GLB file. And once that's downloaded, we can go back over to Marso Studio and quite simply drag the GLB straight into the workspace. But now that this is uploaded, we can see that it doesn't have any PBR, so it looks identical to how it was in SketchFab. All we have to do is grab this side of the node and create generate PBR. And by clicking this button here, what this will do is it will take that 3D object that we just had, and in 4K, it will add the albedo by removing all of the lighting. It will add the roughness map, it will add the IOR map, and it will also add the metallic map. And this usually takes around 1 to 2 minutes. So I'll let this process and we'll come back and see what the results look like. So that's now done, and that took around 2 minutes. And we can click here to view the PBR textures within the 3D viewer. So now we can see the mesh, and it looks to be properly interacting with all of the light. We go to our H2RI, we can look at a few different H2RI maps, just make sure that's, looking realistic. So it's nice and glossy on the sort of body of the motorbike here, and we can see all the metallic parts. And if we want to see the individual PBR channels, we can just click here to see the albedo, the metallic, the roughness as well, and the IOR. Now, to bring that into another 3D application, if you click download, this will download a zip file that will include the albedo, IOR, metallic, and the roughness. So let's go ahead and download this. And then once that's downloaded, we'll go over to Blender. So we're inside of Blender. I've already got a scene set up with some nice lighting. And we'll start out by grabbing our motorbike, the GLB file that we had, and importing that into Blender. But at the moment, it is in our scene, but there's no PBR. It's not interacting with the lighting properly. So we can go over to the shader editor. So in the shader editor, we can see that we have the original base color, and we also have a normal map that came with our mesh. So I've already unzipped that folder, and all we have to do is select all of these textures, and we can simply just drag and drop them straight into the shader graph. So I'll hook up the albedo first. So albedo just goes into the base color. You can already see that's removed quite a bit of the lighting if we compare the two. So especially on the tire there. We'll get the metallic connected next. So for the metallic, the IOR and the roughness, we want to set all of these to non-color data. So I'll connect that to the metallic. I'll find the roughness. I'll do the same for the roughness. So setting that to non-color and connecting that in there. Now for the IOR, we need to connect this to the right part of IOR. You see on the shader, we've got IOR set to 1.5 here, but we've also got IOR level. Now we want to connect this to the IOR level rather than just IOR. So we can take the color, connect this to IOR, and just make sure that this is also set to non-color. And now we have our motorbike correctly interacting with the lights in our Blender scene, and it looks pretty good. The brakes are looking really nice and shiny, very metallic. This plastic is really kind of popping. And also the seat as well. It's not too rough, it's not too shiny, it's just right. And then the wheels as well also look like they're made out of rubber. So this is how to use Marso Studio and then bring your asset directly into Blender.